When I got home on Friday, eager to start the weekend, I was expecting the usual warmth from my wife, Lisa. But instead, I was met with an unsettling silence. No smile, no embrace, just a cold tension in the air. Her posture was stiff, and something in her expression didn't sit right with me. I asked about the kids, expecting them to be at home, but she quickly informed me that they were staying with her mom for the weekend. Then, with a sense of urgency in her voice, she told me that she needed to talk to me. Lisa seemed cautious, her words hesitant as she began. She assured me that whatever she was about to say wasn't bad, but that it might be difficult for me to understand. She said it was something important and that she needed me to keep an open mind. As she spoke, I could sense the tension in her voice, the weight of what was coming. I agreed, telling her that I was listening, but a growing unease gnawed at me. And then, she dropped the bombshell. Lisa told me that she wanted the freedom to be intimate with other people. At first, I thought she was joking. There was no way this could be real. But the look on her face, the seriousness in her eyes, shattered that hope. I asked her if this was her way of leaving me, and she quickly reassured me that she loved me and had no intention of ending our marriage. This, she explained, was something she felt she needed to explore for herself. The words seemed to hang in the air, and disbelief slowly morphed into anger. I told her I couldn't agree to this. I couldn't understand how she could ask for such a thing after everything we'd been through. But Lisa was resolute, telling me that she would go through with it regardless of my objections. She insisted that she had never cheated on me and didn't plan to. She promised she would be careful, that she would not deny me anything in our shared life. But the more she explained, the more distant I felt from her, like I was talking to a stranger. She framed it as a personal exploration, a way to experience something different, something physical, without any emotional strings. And I just sat there, motionless, unable to comprehend what was happening. Lisa continued to talk, trying to convince me that this desire had nothing to do with our marriage, that it wasn't about us as a couple. But I couldn't understand how she could even suggest it. We had been together for 17 years, and in one moment, she was telling me that everything we'd built didn't matter to her anymore. I felt hollow, as though everything we'd shared, every moment, had suddenly become meaningless. Her words cut deep, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. I couldn't even find the strength to speak. So I stood up and walked out of the room, feeling a wave of nausea hit me. Our bedroom, which had once felt like a safe haven, now felt empty, cold, and alien. I needed to get away, to think, to breathe. Running had always been my way to clear my head. I changed into my old running clothes, jeans, a t-shirt, my sneakers, and grabbed my wallet, cap, and sunglasses. As I made my way downstairs, Lisa hadn't moved. She was still sitting in the living room, a stranger to me. I glanced back at her and, with a mixture of pain and disbelief, I asked, "Who are you?" But I didn't wait for an answer. I walked out, slamming the door behind me, and I could hear her calling after me, pleading for me to come back, insisting that she still loved me, that there was still an us. But I couldn't hear her anymore. My pace quickened, and her voice grew fainter. She couldn't keep up with me. I didn't look back. As I ran down the sidewalk, memories of our early years together flooded my mind. I remembered how we had met in college, at a 10K race. She was handing out water to runners, and after winning the race, I searched through the crowd until I found her again. We clicked instantly. She had been working as an assistant to the dean of the business school, even though she hadn't finished her degree. Her sharp attention to detail and knack for writing had always impressed me, but none of that mattered now. What mattered was that she had just shattered everything we had built. During grad school, I was knee-deep in electronics and computer science. After 6 months of dating, Lisa and I became physically involved, and I was thrilled by the chemistry between us. Her enthusiasm more than made up for any lack of experience. We married shortly after I graduated, just 14 months after our first meeting. I was 26, and Lisa was 27. It felt like we had our whole lives ahead of us. Our children, Emily and Jake, arrived during the 9th and 10th years of our marriage, and life seemed stable and fulfilling. Lisa continued working for the dean, while I had secured a role as a computer systems engineer at Tech Innovations, a company specializing in advanced military technology. Bill Schuler, my boss, was a work-driven bachelor in his 60s. He became more than just a boss. He became a mentor and a good friend. After nearly 17 years together, I had assumed our marriage was solid. But in the last few months, Lisa had started becoming distant. She was often irritated, particularly with me, and sometimes even with the kids. We had more arguments than usual, and though I could handle her frustration directed at me, seeing her snap at the kids hurt deeply. I found myself wondering if it was menopause. I wasn't well-versed in biology, but I knew it was something I should look into. Regret settled in as I realized I hadn't followed up on it, though at the time, I hadn't been able to pinpoint exactly what was wrong. Meanwhile, Lisa had called her sister Amanda, saying I had walked out around 5 p.m. that Friday and hadn't returned. In a panic, she turned to Amanda for help. Amanda, who could have been mistaken for Lisa's twin, was the only family member Lisa trusted fully. Both sisters shared the same auburn hair, freckled cheeks, and strong, striking features. However, Amanda's personality was sharper and more independent. At 40, Amanda was still single and fiercely valued her autonomy. She was surprised by my sudden disappearance, but Lisa provided few details, only saying it was something personal. Sensing the tension, Amanda, a psychologist by profession, was determined to find out what had really happened. She asked Lisa for a description of my outfit and the direction I had gone. Lisa answered, explaining that I had been wearing a dark green shirt, jeans, and a Cubs baseball cap, with roads that were dangerously icy. Amanda carefully drove toward Crestview, the small town where I was last seen. When she finally located me, her face was steely as she asked, "Are you proud of yourself for storming out like this?" I answered sarcastically, explaining that while the kids might miss me, Lisa likely wouldn't. Having heard only a vague explanation of our fight, Amanda pressed for the real reason behind my sudden departure. Hesitating, I finally told her about Lisa's decision to pursue relationships outside of our marriage, despite my feelings. Amanda's expression barely changed as she absorbed every word. She remained calm, though her analytical mind was piecing things together, dissecting every detail. Later, I found myself in a holding cell after a bar brawl, awaiting Amanda, who had bailed me out. She listened intently as I recounted everything. Her role as my sister and her profession as a psychologist prompted her to ask sharp questions, each one cutting deeper into the truth of the chaotic night. Amanda tried to explain, telling me that sometimes women face internal changes that men can't always understand. These changes are often sparked by hormonal shifts that lead to uncertainty or insecurity. I listened but made it clear that I wasn't oblivious to the challenges in relationships. I stressed that many women are able to confront such feelings without resorting to drastic measures. Amanda calmly responded, reminding me that infidelity affects about 60% of men and 40% of women, contributing to the rising divorce rate. She speculated that Lisa might be going through a similar phase and suggested I offer support instead of judgment. Before I could respond, Amanda raised her hand, urging me to listen. She clarified that she wasn't suggesting I condone Lisa's actions of seeing other men, but rather that I should show patience and empathy during this difficult time. Amanda emphasized that Lisa needed my stability, understanding, and strength more than ever. I had supported Lisa in her need for help, but with the firm boundary that if she became involved with someone else, our relationship would come to an end. I made it clear that such a betrayal would carry serious consequences, not just for Lisa, but also for anyone else involved. Amanda fell silent for a moment, her face revealing a deep contemplation that left me uneasy. I couldn't shake the feeling that she might be judging my stance, but before I could dwell on it too much, she shifted the conversation. She acknowledged my recent achievement of walking nearly 100 miles over the course of 2 days. I tried to brush it off, casually mentioning that the time alone had given me space to think. I dismissed it as a small accomplishment, but Amanda emphasized the difficulty of the journey, particularly given the harsh weather conditions. When she asked me what had been on my mind during the trek, her question felt like a direct echo of the turmoil that had consumed me. Thoughts about Lisa, about myself, and the uncertain future of our relationship. Christmas was only weeks away, but instead of the season being filled with joy, it felt like it was shaping up to be a painful reminder of how much had changed. I couldn't shake the thought that whatever awaited me under the tree might just highlight the painful presence of someone else in my life. Furious, I knew I wasn't ready to go home yet. I asked Amanda to drop me off at Tech Innovations. I needed solitude, time to clear my head. I suggested she talk to Lisa the next day, hoping that with a clearer understanding of my feelings, Lisa might reconsider her plans. Amanda agreed to have the conversation with Lisa, who had been concerned about my absence. She hoped that Lisa, after hearing my side, might come to realize what she was about to risk. I assured Amanda I wasn't planning anything drastic. I simply needed time. As Amanda drove away, I entered my office, still carrying the weight of the situation. Although Amanda believed Lisa might rethink her decisions, I feared the damage had already been done. My trust in her, once unwavering, now felt fractured. At home, Amanda confronted Lisa, throwing off her coat with no hesitation. "He's afraid he's lost you," Amanda said, her voice sharp. Lisa immediately brushed it off, insisting that I would never truly lose her, that I should already know that. But Amanda wasn't swayed. She pointed out that any man would feel abandoned if his wife expressed a desire to be with others. Lisa looked distressed, asking if I had shared everything with Amanda. When Amanda confirmed, stating that as my sister, such secrets couldn't stay hidden, Lisa reluctantly admitted that she had long considered exploring relationships outside our marriage. She framed it as something she had believed to be acceptable for quite some time. Amanda didn't hold back. She warned Lisa that if she went forward with this plan, she risked losing not only me but also our children and, likely, many friends and family who cared about her. Amanda questioned whether Lisa truly understood the magnitude of what she was about to do. Unable to meet Amanda's gaze, Lisa admitted how much the thought had weighed on her. She confessed that the urge felt overpowering, almost beyond her control, and expressed her hope that Amanda, of all people, might understand. Amanda, trying to be supportive, admitted that while she valued her independence and had her own inclinations, she had never married because she feared she couldn't remain faithful to just one person. She urged Lisa to reconsider, warning her of the potential fallout. Lisa, tears now streaming down her face, reluctantly agreed, her resolve faltering. She began to cry, and Amanda wrapped her in a hug, assuring her they would get through this together. Amanda offered to stay the night and promised to be there when I returned, ready to mediate the situation. The next morning, I woke up on the office couch, my body sore from the long walk and restless night. Running had always been second nature to me, but endurance walks like that one were rare, especially in recent years, and the difficult conditions had only made it worse. Yet, I felt a small sense of pride knowing that I had made it through, even though I hadn't yet solved the turmoil brewing within me. By the time I arrived home, still feeling the lingering weight of the past few days, I wasn't entirely sure I was ready to face Lisa. It was a little after 10 a.m., and I knew the kids, Emily and Jake, would already be at school. Lisa opened the door and immediately wrapped me in a tight embrace. Her relief was evident as she muttered that she was sorry for everything, saying she wasn't worth anymore, and asked me to forget the words she'd said before. She admitted that her earlier statements were impulsive, and she mentioned having talked things over with Amanda, who had helped her see things more clearly. As we stood in the doorway, I remained guarded, cautious in my response. I couldn't just forget what had happened. Despite her reassurances, something in the pit of my stomach told me to tread carefully. When we made our way into the kitchen, I saw Amanda sitting at the table sipping tea. I greeted her, asking if she was here to support Lisa's version of events. Amanda confirmed that they had spoken at length and hoped that this could be seen as a temporary lapse, something we could all move past. Even as they tried to convince me, a lingering suspicion gnawed at me, and I couldn't help but feel hesitant to trust completely. Over the next few days, Lisa did her best to reassure me. She apologized repeatedly, and I almost found myself convinced by Amanda's interpretation of events that this was just a fleeting lapse in judgment. But Thursday arrived, and with it came an unusual phone call. The faint background noise immediately caught my attention. It was subtle, but I could make out words like call, cell, and other phrases that didn't quite sit right with me. I decided not to mention it to Lisa right away, but instead went upstairs to check her call history. On her phone, I found 6 unknown numbers, and a surge of determination washed over me. With my experience and access to the right tools, uncovering the identities behind those numbers would be a straightforward task. I knew just who to ask for help: Tim, our systems installer and technician. We had bonded over shared experiences and evenings cheering for Ohio State. I approached him in the hallway and asked if he could meet me in my office. When I explained the situation, Tim's demeanor shifted. He became serious and warned me about the risks involved. His caution was palpable, but he agreed to help me. He advised me to proceed with caution, offering to keep everything confidential while I verified my suspicions. I assured him I needed to verify the information first and only wanted to take the next step if the situation warranted it. Back at home, Amanda continued her conversation with Lisa, reiterating what I hadn't been able to express myself. "He's scared he's lost you," Amanda said pointedly. Lisa brushed off the notion, insisting that I had never truly doubted her. But Amanda wasn't convinced and pointed out that any man would feel rattled by the idea of his wife wanting to be with others. Lisa, now appearing conflicted, asked Amanda if I had shared everything with her. And when Amanda confirmed that she knew it all, she pointed out the damage Lisa was causing to our family, to her friends, and to everyone who cared for her. The reality of Lisa's actions began to sink in. I realized she had seriously underestimated both my technical skills and the resources at my disposal. If she thought she could betray me and keep it hidden, she was wrong. I had my network of people and the know-how to uncover the truth. Life at home quickly settled into a forced normalcy. The kids were cheerful, Lisa appeared content, and I played along, masking the growing resentment within me. A week later, Tim reached out to meet at our usual spot. When we met, he revealed that he had not only traced the unknown numbers but had gathered substantial evidence: addresses, photos, and even recordings. The news was undeniable. Lisa had indeed been unfaithful. I remained calm as I listened to Tim's findings, but a quiet rage built within me. I told him I needed more, particularly additional video recordings. I was planning to confront Lisa and her lovers strategically. Tim raised an eyebrow and warned me that Lisa might be setting me up in some way, but I reassured him that I wouldn't use the information in court. I had another approach in mind. Intrigued by the undercover work, Tim agreed to gather more, and over the next few weeks, he returned with a wealth of information about the people involved. Now, it was only a matter of timing, deciding how best to use what we had gathered. I needed to discuss the situation with Amanda. We met in her office to review the evidence together, and I could see how visibly disturbed she was. Having previously believed Lisa's reassurances, she was now confronted with the truth. I shared my frustration, telling Amanda how humiliated I felt, how this breach of trust had shattered everything I once believed about my marriage. I felt a deep sense of emptiness as I listened to Amanda's advice, her voice calm but firm, urging me to avoid seeking revenge. She warned that taking such a path would only bring more suffering, especially for our children, who had already been caught in the fallout of this devastating situation. Despite the burning anger inside me, I understood her reasoning. The urge to get back at Lisa for what she had done still simmered beneath the surface, but I agreed to let go of direct retribution. However, that didn't mean I could just move on from the betrayal without addressing the damage she had done. I decided instead to focus on the consequences that would not only impact Lisa directly, but also affect the men involved. She had put herself in a dangerously precarious position, entangled with 5 married men, all of whom had young children, 2 of whom held high-profile positions. One a politician and the other a priest. It was clear that the exposure of her actions could ruin these men's lives, and I couldn't let her get away with it. My plan was simple but devastating. I would leave the family home to Lisa, taking our children and relocating us to a new apartment near their school. The visitation would be limited, and none of her friends would be allowed around them. The stakes had never been higher. To ensure everything went according to plan, I enlisted a tech-savvy friend to help me manipulate the incriminating videos. We blurred Lisa's face to protect her privacy, but the message would be clear. The videos would be sent to the wives of her lovers, with additional copies forwarded to a local TV station, including the footage involving the priest. I didn't need to take legal action. I wasn't planning to drag this into the courts. The aim was to destroy their reputations quietly and effectively. The fallout from this, I hoped, would be swift. On the day of the plan's execution, I arrived early at the office, ready to pull the trigger. With one click, the files were sent. The seed of destruction was planted. By evening, 4 of Lisa's lovers would be facing severe consequences, and the priest might be reassigned to a remote location. The satisfaction I felt in watching this unfold was strangely fulfilling, like a general observing his strategy come to fruition. After notifying my boss that I'd be out for the rest of the day, I headed home, already anticipating how quickly Lisa would realize what had happened. When I arrived, Lisa was in the kitchen, completely unaware of the storm brewing just outside. I confronted her with the videos, watching her face fall as the weight of the situation hit her. She stammered out an explanation, but I cut her off, making it clear that there would be no excuses left. The marriage was over. I told her I was taking the kids with me and leaving, and she was left alone to face the consequences of her actions. The repercussions were swift. The priest was reassigned to a remote location. The politician's career crumbled under the pressure. The other men were confronted by their spouses, each one grappling with the fallout from their actions. Lisa, meanwhile, was left to bear the full weight of her mistakes. She moved into a new apartment, and I focused on rebuilding our lives for the sake of our children. Though the pain still lingered, I was determined to create a stable environment for them, far removed from the chaos Lisa had caused. Occasionally, Lisa would try to date someone new, likely set up by her colleagues, but the spark of promiscuity she had once craved had clearly lost its appeal. She remained involved in the kids' lives, particularly around the holidays. She even joined us for Christmas, though she now understood the gravity of her actions. One afternoon, an idea struck me. I wrote a note and placed it in front of the TV, play video. I waited, letting the anticipation build. A short while later, I heard Lisa return, and I watched her from the top of the stairs as she read the note. After a brief hesitation, she pressed play. I couldn't see the video, but I could feel her anxiety radiating through the silence in the room. Less than a minute later, she fainted. I turned off the screen, waiting until she regained consciousness. When she finally sat up, she asked if I hated her. I answered honestly, yes. There was no future for us, I told her. The bridge had been burned, and I couldn't look back. I decided that Lisa could keep the house, but I would take everything else, our assets, savings, and investments. She had one option: retain some dignity by accepting my terms without contesting them, or I would destroy her in court. Apologizing, she claimed she hadn't intended for things to spiral this far, but my sympathy had long run dry. I reminded her sharply that actions have consequences and that soon, she would feel the full weight of them. I informed her that Amanda would pick up the children after school and take them to our new place while Lisa would have limited visitation rights. I made it clear that no friends would be allowed near the kids, a condition she silently acknowledged, her nod offering no room for argument. I knew she would cry later, but I didn't have it in me to feel sorry for her anymore. She had made her bed, and now she would have to lie in it. As I walked out the door, the fallout continued to unfold. Each of Lisa's married lovers faced the unraveling of their marriages, along with severe professional consequences. The priest was quietly reassigned to a distant location, and one of the men, who had once been a successful businessman, found himself forced into an entirely new career. Lisa, on the other hand, carried on working her job, seeing the kids, and navigating the aftermath of her choices. Helping the children understand why their mother no longer lived with us was a struggle, but we adapted. Occasionally, I heard rumors of Lisa dating again, though the allure of her old lifestyle seemed to have faded. She would still join us at family gatherings, but it was clear that her decisions had left an indelible mark. The shared love we once had, something that had been a source of comfort, had now become a destructive force that had torn our family apart. Still, I found solace in the thought that we could rebuild our lives. The scars would remain, but we could move forward, together, despite it all. Before ending the call with the sitter, I made sure to ask her not to inform Lisa about her visit, explaining that I had planned a surprise outing for Lisa. When the sitter mentioned that Lisa had earlier attempted to book her for the evening, I covered my tracks, claiming we thought our plans had been canceled but decided to go ahead after all. At 8 p.m., Lisa left for the party, and I waited patiently until the sitter arrived. Once she was settled in, I headed to the party myself, half expecting that Lisa wouldn't be there at all and had likely used the event as an excuse to meet someone else. To my surprise, Lisa was there, and her friend was startled to see me. They quickly called Lisa over. The look on her face was one of pure shock, far beyond mere surprise. She was flushed, her eyes bloodshot, and she seemed noticeably distant toward me. She immediately questioned my presence and asked who was looking after our child. I reassured her that I had arranged for the sitter, then suggested we enjoy the evening together and watch the fireworks. The gathering was cozy, with about 15 to 20 people, but there was an unusual imbalance, a significant number of men and only a few women. I tried to shake off the unease that crept over me, but Jessica's odd behavior left me with an unsettling feeling. Why had she been dishonest about the event in the first place? Something didn't add up. The night progressed, and the atmosphere centered around a game of truth or dare. People were laughing and daring each other, egging everyone on to push boundaries. I joined a group of guys who were more than happy to talk, thanks to the drinks flowing freely. As I observed the scene, I couldn't help but notice how restless Jessica seemed. Her discomfort was almost palpable, and soon enough, she expressed a sudden desire to go home. That only fueled my growing suspicions. I told her we could leave soon, but first, I wanted to grab another drink. Heading into the kitchen, I casually struck up a conversation with a guy I hadn't met before. I introduced myself and mentioned I was curious to see who was available at the party. I tried to keep things light, not wanting to reveal my true intentions. As we chatted, I pointed out various women, asking which ones were single and which ones were taken. When my eyes landed on Jessica, I pointed her out too. The guy glanced over and said she was attractive, but off-limits because she'd arrived with one of his friends. I masked my emotions as best I could, but inside, I was already on edge. Pressing him for more information, the man, thinking I was just another partygoer, casually told me that Jessica had come to the party with a friend she'd met at a concert. They'd been seeing each other ever since. My heart sank as everything suddenly clicked into place. I remembered the concert, one that Jessica and I had both attended. She had excused herself to get snacks, and I had thought nothing of it at the time. But now, it felt like a missing piece to a puzzle I had been reluctant to solve. As the man continued boasting about my wife, as if she were some kind of conquest, I fought to keep my anger under control. The situation was too much to ignore now. Jessica's friend appeared, realizing where the conversation was headed, but it was too late. I had already pieced it all together. Excusing myself, I asked Jessica's friend where my wife was. She gestured toward the patio, and there I found her, engaged in what looked like a tense conversation with the man she'd been hiding from me. My heart was pounding in my chest as I walked up to them, introducing myself firmly and leaving no doubt about who I was. Jessica looked visibly shaken, attempting to pull me away and urging us to leave. But I wasn't going anywhere until I had answers. I turned to her friend and directly asked if he knew she was married before getting involved with her. I didn't want to start a fight, but I wanted him to know that I was fully aware of everything. My posture conveyed my message loud and clear. I wouldn't tolerate any disrespect. With a bottle in my hand, I repeated the question, making it clear that I wasn't there to cause a scene, but simply to understand his role in all this. The man, realizing the gravity of the situation, stammered out an apology, claiming he hadn't known she was married. When I asked how many times they had been together, his response was enough to confirm everything. I gave him a tight smile, wished him a good night, and walked away. Outside, I got into my car and drove straight to a hotel. As I sit here, writing this down, I'm still trying to process the betrayal. My mind is racing, unsure of how to handle co-parenting or how to navigate this divorce. Having never experienced a broken family myself, I don't know where to begin. What I do know is that facing her again feels unbearable. This entire incident is eating me up inside, and I'm left with more questions than answers. How far is too far when it comes to exploring personal desires within a marriage? Is it ever acceptable to break the trust of a lifelong partner for a fleeting moment of excitement? And what happens when those actions have lasting consequences? How should someone handle betrayal when it involves not just a spouse, but multiple people, including those who hold high societal positions. Can a marriage ever truly recover from the betrayal of infidelity, and should the focus be on forgiveness or on moving forward with a new life? What are the long-term impacts on children caught in the middle of such a painful situation, and how do they cope with the fallout from their parents' actions? Would you support someone you love even when their decisions leave you heartbroken? Or is there a point where loyalty is irrevocably broken? These questions and more linger in the aftermath of a devastating betrayal, leaving us wondering how far we are willing to go in the name of love, forgiveness, and justice.